Shop on eBay this holiday season to get more for your dough on stand mixers, or get more for your buck on this season's hottest tech and gaming gear. And on eBay, you can even get more
Ooh.
bling for less cha-ching on jewelry. You can get more because you save more on premium brands with eBay's exclusive deals. Get more when you get it on eBay.
Lacuna Health is a call center that goes beyond answering calls. Our highly trained staff handles the clinical needs of patients and extends the care of your practice 24/7. Our experienced RNs offer HIPAA-compliant nurse triage that helps to reduce unnecessary emergency room visits and monitor patient health using your standards and protocols. We answer calls within 30 seconds, and patients have nursing care within 30 minutes. Click Contact Us at lacunahealth.com to see how we can help.
I have been wanting a paddleboard for years, and I finally got one from Bluefin Sup. And let me tell you, I absolutely love it because I can stand on it and look down in the water and see the fish, see sharks and stingrays and turtles. It's absolutely amazing. I've taken it out dozens of times since I gotten it. And what I love about Bluefin is they offered a huge selection. I went with the Bluefin Cruise 12, but they've got bigger boards, smaller boards for juniors all the way up to season ocean tours. And what's cool, it's a family-run business based in the UK, but they ship nationwide. When I placed the order, it was here within a matter of days, like 4 or 5 days. It was at my front door. It all packs down into a backpack. I can store it inside my vehicle, inflate it in 5 or 6 minutes. Doesn't take that much time. And one of the coolest things about it is it's almost completely replaced my kayak because a kayak seat is attachable to it. So when I need to take a break and want to sit down on the board, I have a seat ready to go. It's amazing. So if you're looking for a paddleboard, I can't recommend Bluefin enough. And by the way, they are having a Black Friday sale for $150 off at bluefinsupboards.com. That's Bluefin, S-U-P, boards.com. And there is a link in the show notes to check it out. So thank you for the folks over at Bluefin for sponsoring this episode.
Usually was all the stray dogs. There are a lot of stray dogs in South America and the Balkans. They didn't have any owners to manage them. So we kind of had to just figure out how to deal with them in a way that worked for her and for them. So it actually ended up being a good thing for her training.
Hey folks, welcome to the Adventure Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Mason. This episode's going to be great because I know a lot of y'all have dogs. I've got 2 dogs. I've taken them on some adventures, mostly car camping, but I did take our smallest dog backpacking a couple times, and it was awesome. And so when I heard that Jen does this, I just had to have her on the show to talk about adventuring with our dogs because, it's like taking a friend with you if you're closer with your dogs. I'll be honest, the relationship I've had with my dog has deepened after an adventure. We just feel connected. We feel like we've done something really cool together. She might not care at all, but I think she's having a good time. I know she's having fun out there. The freedom, the experience, the fresh air, it does us both good. And so I'm trying to include her as much as possible now. And so Jen is going to share with us some ways that you do that safely. You can do that responsibly, ways to not get too super frustrated at the beginning if it's tougher than you think, and also gives us some ideas of what kinds of things you can do. And I'll go ahead and tell you, there's not a lot you can't do with your dog. Anything you're interested in, any adventure you can think of, type in "with a dog" in Google. Somebody's done it. Somebody is doing it. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Thanks to all our new patrons. And before we jump in, Jen does have a couple great resources if you want to learn more. Her website is longhaultrekkers.com, Instagram longhaultrekkers, and then the book is The Essential Guide to Hiking with Dogs. So Jen literally wrote the book on this subject. So check all that out in the show notes, and let's go ahead and jump in. All right, folks, welcome to the Adventure Sports Podcast. Today we are We're going to be talking about something that's going to apply to a lot of you, I would imagine, which is adventuring with your dog. And we're going to be hearing from expert Jen Sotolongo. Jen, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I always ask this first. Where are you coming from today? And is that home?
Yes, I am here at home in Portland, Oregon. I'm from the Seattle area originally. I grew up there my whole life and then lived on the East Coast for a few years. I went to school out there and then stayed out there for a few years. Lived abroad in various places throughout the world, and the Northwest is just home. I moved to Portland about 10 years ago, and moved away again to do some traveling and then came back last year. So
wow,
it's home. Yeah.
Two pretty amazing adventure capitals. Were you encouraged to do adventures growing up? Were you in a family that did that stuff, or did you have to discover it on your own?
Yeah, my family wasn't very outdoorsy. We would maybe go on, a couple short, like popular, easily accessible hikes a year. I discovered it, I guess, probably in high school when friends convinced me to join the cross country team. I grew up playing basketball, and I got to a point where I knew I wasn't skilled enough to make the varsity team. And so I wanted to keep exercising, but didn't know what. And friends convinced me to join the cross country team. And I'm like, I am not a runner. I don't do this. But somehow they convinced me. And that was kind of the start of my adventure journey, because I eventually graduated to trail running. And, the Northwest, as you said, is just kind of a big adventure capital. So, as I kind of got older and could choose what I wanted to do, gravitated towards the trails. And I got even more into the adventures when I got my first dog about 10 years ago. So it's what I do when I can.
Have you had your dog? Have you had Sitka for 10 years?
No, I got Sitka about 2 years ago. My first dog came to me through a relationship. So it's his dog, and she and I bonded immediately. I did everything wrong because I thought I knew a lot about dogs, but it turns out I did not. But she was very forgiving, and so she died almost exactly 3 years ago. So Sitka is my first dog that's all my own.
Nothing prepares you for that. I've lost some dogs over the years, and it's been worse than losing some family. I don't want to dwell on that too much, but when you first started adventuring with dogs, what were you doing, and what were some of the obstacles you were overcoming? Because I imagine it felt maybe a little intimidating, maybe not. Maybe it was a natural fit.
It was a bit of both. I met Sora, and I'm a long distance runner, and I basically stole her, and I was like, I'm taking her for a New Year's Day run. And it was like an 11-mile run, which I probably shouldn't have done that with her first like right off the bat. I should have done a little more conditioning, but we just had a lot of fun. And I had always wanted dogs growing up. We had cats in my family, but I was always that kid that was, walking the neighbor's dogs or, pet sitting the neighbor's dogs to get my dog fix. And so I was really happy to finally have my own dog. In the first years, I think the biggest challenges were just that I had to kind of unlearn everything I thought I knew about dogs. That just kind of the things we pick up culturally that aren't always ideal for dogs or for being outside with your dogs. And what I mean by that are things like letting your dog, meet other dogs all the time, or letting your dog go up to people when you're on the trail, or not having reliable recall. Sora was a reactive dog, and I really wanted her to be this very specific dog, and I didn't know how to get her to that point. And I knew that the things we were doing were not necessarily okay in terms of trail etiquette, but I just kind of like willed it to happen. And it took me, a little while to realize that you can't just will something to happen just because you want it badly enough. You have to put in the work. And I didn't know exactly what to do at that point. So I've spent, a lot of those 10 years learning how to be a good dog owner on the trail and how to kind of build that relationship with my dog so that we have that reliable recall and we can enjoy the trails with a lot less stress. The other challenge that we face is other dog owners who, were at where I was when I first had a dog that don't necessarily understand kind of the basics of trail etiquette. And so, I have a soft spot for reactive dogs. Sitka can be reactive. And so I just don't let him meet other dogs on the trail. We do it in a very structured way. But if we're running, we're running. We don't want to stop and meet all the dogs. And so it can be very stressful because people just don't understand, or they get offended if you ask them to manage their dog. And so it's a challenge that a lot of dog owners face. And I just wish there were more education about coexistence on the trail so that everyone can enjoy their activity with their dog.
Yeah, so you talk about some of those basics. So say someone has a dog they want to go hiking with, for instance, or even backpacking or something on the trail. Some of those requirements, those basic things that y'all suggest is like, being able to sit, being able to reliably be recalled, like basically come when you called. For some of those basics before you can take your dog out, how long do you expect people, say starting from nothing, they just have a dog that hangs out at the house, good dog, nothing too crazy going on. How long can they expect before they can get those basics down, do you think, with training? Is it months or weeks we're talking about?
It really depends on the owner and their time availability and dedication. Let's see, I got Sitka in December 2019, and we did some basic training on our own. And then I worked with a trainer in March, I think, so a few months later. And we put in 20 minutes 3 times a day, every day, at least, to work on training. And that was active training. So then there's also passive training. So say, you run into a friend during a walk. I'm always training my dog. I put him in a sit or a down, so I can have that conversation. If he gets up, I put him in a down again. That's kind of the passive training where my dog is always my priority. So it might mean that I'm not paying it. The person I'm talking to, I might have to stop constantly to manage my dog or make sure, that the passing dog is not going to approach us, things like that. So for us, we're always training. And we also use balanced training, which means that we use tools like prong collars and e-collars, which was just a huge, huge, huge help for training that off-leash reliability. It has made running and hiking and backpacking so much more just enjoyable and less stressful because I know he will always come back. I know that I don't have to worry about him like going up to other people or not, chasing wildlife or anything like that. So it's a really efficient way to train your dog because dogs are tactile creatures. So they learn from pressure and release. And so it's just a really efficient way of communicating with them. And Sitka's recall has always been pretty good. So he's a cattle dog, so he's pretty smart and, very eager to please. So he learned, I don't know, we were doing off-leash hikes pretty soon after we completed our training, that was a month-long training program. So I would say that's a very long-winded answer to your question, but I would say if you put in daily dedication with your dog and practice regularly, You can get off-leash reliability in a month, probably would be about the quickest time, but, maybe like plan for 1 to 3 months to really get it nailed down. The key is practice and not letting your dog off leash too soon. I think a lot of dog owners are so eager to hit the trails with their dog right away. But using a long line is super helpful when you're kind of in that in between phase, because it's just a tool that's not used a lot, I think, or used too quickly or skipped over because they want to graduate to that off leash stage. But it is really, it's just beneficial for you and your dog to just really nail down those commands and become really fluent in whatever commands you're teaching them, especially recall.
Having that ability is priceless. It can literally save the dog's life.
Yes.
In the backcountry, or when you're backpacking, where there's wild animals or other dogs, and unforeseen challenges or weather, and you don't want to be caught in a really tragic situation if your dog just simply won't come back to you when they're called.
Yep.
So once you were comfortable with your dog to take on adventures, what are some of the things you started doing, and what did you start feeling more and more comfortable to do with your dog?
Well, since we're runners, we've always been running. So that's our main adventure activity. And I do a lot of, I call it just urban confidence training. So, in the city, we do things like, I'll go to playgrounds when there's no kids around, and I'll have him go on, like, climb up the stairs and go down the slide and go across the bouncy bridges, things like that, just like weird things. We do a lot of training around scary things, like Sitka doesn't like motorcycles or garbage trucks or the bus or skateboards. So we'll spend a lot of time practicing being around those scary things. Like, we follow the garbage truck every single Monday for like 20 minutes to just get him used to that sound. So how that translates to the trail it just teaches your dog to be comfortable on varied terrain. So having Sitka kind of go on all these weird surfaces and with weird textures, it teaches him to just be really confident if we're on a hike with a scramble, or, on slippery terrain or things like that. So I just have Sitka, like, I'll have him just go on weird things all the time, like have him jump on picnic benches or walk on rocks or walk on, slotted staircases. We just do a lot of practicing with that in our current environment so that he can just get used to different sensations. And so what I found really important is just watching your dog's confidence, seeing how confident they feel on different textures and terrains and rocks and things like that. Because if your dog is a little klutzy, they could fall off a cliff or fall off a rock or, hurt themselves. So you really want to build that confidence in them so that, those things don't happen. The other thing I was going to say is, it's also really important, I think, to learn your dogs, to learn to speak your dog's language. Dogs don't speak English. No matter how much we talk to them, they don't speak English, they speak dog. And I think it's only fair that, if we're teaching them our language, we need to learn some of theirs. And so learning, your dog's different barks or growls or their different body postures, that's super, it's really been helpful for me on the trail, especially because I can tell the difference if, Sitka sees a squirrel versus a person ahead versus if he's just like staring off into space, listening to the sounds of nature. I can always tell, okay, there's person ahead. I'm going to recall him back. And so just is really tuning into your dog's body cues will tell you a lot about what's going on without having to say anything to them. And it tells you a lot about, what's going on with them and what might be coming up.
Being able to practice and build up to bigger adventures and building that confidence is so important. I have had the pleasure with backpacking with one of my dogs, and we had a great time. It was our first time, and or for the first time. I mean, it was, there was a lot to learn for folks that want to do a bigger adventure like that. Obviously, dogs are canines. They're pretty adept to being outside and being comfortable, but there is essential things you have to bring with you. What are some of those things that people should kind of have in their mind ready to be able to physically carry when bringing a dog on an adventure? Let's take a quick message break and hear from the folks that help make this show possible.
If you love hosting over the holidays, swap out your old HVAC filter with a Filtrete air filter. It can help clear away particles from all your holiday cooking. Look for Filtrete air filters at a retailer near you. Let's clear the air.
Safety and access to benefits are top priorities as VA supports today's veterans. Online applications connect veterans with healthcare and other benefits. Telehealth provides safe, respectful care anywhere. Testing, vaccinations, and treatment help veterans during the pandemic. Housing assistance and mental health care support veterans as we all recover. Moving forward together. Choose VA today. Visit choose.va.gov.
That is plenty of that for now. Let's get back into the episode.
Yeah. So I always bring a first aid kit that includes one for my pet. I use the Adventure Medical Kit. I think it's called My Dog and Me.
Interesting. What's in some of that? That's a really good point.
That's a good question. I haven't had to open it, thankfully. So,
that's hilarious. That's good. That's good.
Well, so I'll say what are some things that you should bring for your dog's adventure. You should have things like a tick removal key. That's not necessarily an emergency thing, but always do a tick check if there's ticks in your area. You can carry Benadryl, so if your dog is stung by a bee or gets some other kind of swelling from a bite. I believe the dosage is 1 milligram per pound. I did a first aid class with a vet recently, and I believe that's what it is, but check with your vets before going off of what I'm saying, because I'm not a vet. So carry Benadryl. You can also carry activated charcoal, vet wrap, which is like kind of sticky tape, and then gauze wrap, like if they get a cut on their paw, or the paw pads. Torn paw pads are really common, especially in dogs that the people that take their dogs out for, a 10-mile hike when they haven't been conditioned. Dogs can tear paw pads really easily if they haven't been able to develop those calluses. So you can bring wraps to wrap that up, or you can get a cheap pair of booties. I forget what the brand is. There's a brand that has really cheap dog boots that are great for keeping your medical kit for things like torn paw pads.
And that does happen. I've had that happen from experience on a relatively easy hike. Dog cuts their pad, they're even bleeding, and they can't walk on it. And if it's on 2 legs, good gracious, you're carrying a dog.
Yep. Yes, you are. And that actually reminds me, I carry a rescue harness as well. There's several brands out there. I think there's 3 different ones that are making harnesses for dogs. You basically it's like a sling. So you put them in the sling, and then you carry them out like a backpack sort of. So that I have one for my dog because he's 42 pounds and I could carry him, but it would not be fun. What else? My dog's collar has a light built into it, but bringing a light for the collar would be good if you get stuck at night. I also pack water specifically for my dog. So I just count him as, another person, basically, so that he has enough water for the hike. That's probably a lot of the basics, I would say.
Just like with backpacking or anything else, you're probably going to overpack the first time. Take a little too much. You'll bring 3 lighters instead of the 1 you need, or whatever ways to start a fire. You're going to figure out that, dogs are pretty resilient. You're pretty resilient. And as you get better at it, you'll realize what you need and don't necessarily need, depending on your dog's abilities. But yeah, those essentials are always handy if something goes wrong. So for you, what are some of the adventures you've been able to take? You mentioned running. Have you ever gone and done an overnight with your dog? And what was that experience like?
We haven't done an overnight running trip together, but I really want to. I want to go with someone else who's done it first. So looking for someone to take me on that adventure. But we've done several backpacking trips. We did one most recently this summer in the Wallowas in Eastern Oregon. And then we've done a few in Washington. And it's such a great way to bond with your dog, I think. We do most of our runs are just Sitka and me. And it's just, a lot of people are scared to go out on the trail by themselves. And when you have a dog, you're not really by yourself, but you do have that added responsibility for, if something happens to your dog, then, you need to be able to care for them, and keep yourself safe so that you can care for them. Yeah. I mean, most of our adventures are really very long trail runs, throughout the Northwest.
What are some of the cooler experiences you've heard other people do, maybe taking dogs onto new frontiers? So for instance, I saw that you and Sitka have been paddleboarding together, which to me sounds like could be pretty tough. Have you seen any interesting adventures that people have been able to bring their dogs on?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of adventures. And actually I I skipped over one. In From 2015 to 2017, my partner at the time and I took Sora on a tier bicycle trip across Europe and South America. So that was a little bit of a big adventure.
Yeah, that's a big adventure.
Yes, it is.
Holy cow! So that's actually that's actually what I'm talking about. So there's the running, there's the trail, but there's also stuff like road cycling or mountain biking, even where or any sort of vessel the dog gets into. So what was that experience like? Tell us some stories from that.
It was a lot of fun, and having a dog along definitely brought on some challenges, but it wasn't really as challenging as one might think. We had to do a lot of paperwork
For like border crossings?
for border crossings. Yeah, Europe was fairly easy because once you're in the EU, the paperwork is the same. But once you go in and out of the EU, then it gets a little more tricky. And then we went to South America after that. So each country there requires paperwork. But once you do it a couple times, you know what to do. Finding dog-friendly accommodation could be tricky, especially in places, like South America or the Balkans, where they don't really have that same kind of pet relationship with dogs that, we have here in places like the US and North America. So it's just kind of navigating those situations. Another area we thought would be really challenging, but usually wasn't, was all the stray dogs. There are a lot of stray dogs in South America and the Balkans, in Turkey, and for the most part, they were really friendly dogs. They kind of either kept to themselves or they were just really well socialized, and it actually really helped Sora with her reactivity because she got so many impressions with these dogs because we kind of, they didn't have any owners to manage them, so we kind of had to just figure out how to deal with them in a way that worked for her and for them. So it actually ended up being a good thing for her training. We flew with her both in cabin. She was an ESA for my partner, and she also flew in the cargo hold, which, is definitely stressful and it's not fun, but dogs fly every single day, and we only hear about the bad things that happen to them. But as long as you are, doing your homework on the airline and making sure they have a good pet service, then, and we told everyone, everyone at the front desk, the pilot, all the flight attendants, we made sure everyone knew that we had a dog on the plane. So It's not fun, but for us, it just was important for us to have her along and not leave her behind. So, it was worth flying with her. And then, I have a friend, they took their dog on the Annapurna circuit with them. She and her husband did the Annapurna circuit with her dog. I have another friend that did, I am probably going to get the numbers wrong. It's like the Adirondack 30 or 40 and the Catskills 30 or 40. So the 40 highest peaks with their dogs in those mountain ranges. She did all of them with her dog, Ariel, a few years ago. I have another friend that I met during my bicycle trip. He's been traveling with his dog for 6 years, maybe more. Also on bicycle. He's from Spain, and I think he's stuck to Europe, but he has a dog named Hippie, and they've been on their bike for years. He found some dogs in Georgia I think they had parvo maybe, and he helped some of them recover. Some of them didn't make it, and he adopted one of them. I think I don't know if it was one of those dogs. He adopted a dog from Georgia, I believe, but now he has 2 dogs. So yeah, I mean, I just think you can do these kind of crazy, like seemingly crazy things with your dog. You can bring them with you. There's ways, and it adds a little bit of a challenge sometimes, but it's doable. If you just if you just decide that that's what you want to do, then, you can make it happen. And I think, my whole blog started during the bike trip because I just wanted to show people that you can take your dog with you if you want to. You don't have to leave them behind. You can go travel to some big trip and bring your dog. You can make it happen if that's what you want to do.
We've got a guest that's been on the show a couple times, Tom Tursich, who is going to be, he's almost done with his trip, but he's going to be the 10th person to walk around the world. And his dog will be the first dog to ever walk around the world, like 20-something thousand miles.
Oh, wow.
And he adopted the dog from a shelter in Texas on his way to South America, then walked across Europe and Asia, Australia. And yeah, we're going to have him back on because I know it's added so much and provided him so much for this experience. He started in 2015, so it's been like six years. It's going to be 7 years by the time he's done.
Wow.
Which is crazy. And his dog's been with him the whole time. So for folks that may be saying, I would love to take my dog, I just really don't know. It's going to be too challenging, or I don't know, if I want to figure it all out. What are maybe the top 3 benefits you could say to folks who are thinking about taking their dogs, of top 3 benefits of bringing your dog on an adventure?
I mean, the first obvious benefit is that you get to be with your dog. You don't have to leave them behind. But I think having a dog with you opens a possibility for things that you might not otherwise have found. So as an example, let's take national parks. Dogs aren't really allowed in national parks. So you have to do something that's not at the national park. So you might look at the national forest areas outside of the national park and discover that they're also pretty cool. And, there's a lot less people, and, there's no admission fee, or maybe you pay an annual fee for the pass. And so, I've discovered a lot of really great places because I can't go with my dog to certain places. And so that's just been really fun because, in addition to having fewer crowds, I feel better about the environmental impact of going somewhere that's not overcrowded. So that's a big benefit. It's also a conversation starter when people see you carrying a dog in your bike trailer and learn that you're not from that country and you've been biking thousands of miles with your dog. That's definitely, something very interesting to
It's a
people,
nice
and kind
breaker.
of,
It's definitely an
yeah.
icebreaker.
So, we met a lot of people just from having our dog with us. And, it was fun to just kind of talk to people about that. And then a third benefit, I think, is just, it really builds your relationship with your dog in a way that's different from being at home. Like, we've been at home a lot with our dogs and get to be with our dogs all day long, but it's different when you're doing challenging things with them and kind of going through difficult moments. Bicycle touring was fun, but there's also the fact that you are packing up and moving your tent every single day, and you're outside in terrible weather sometimes, or it's really windy or whatever. There's a lot of challenges that come with it, and having your dog there just gives you kind of that support system, especially if it's you and your dog on a solo adventure. You have your dog there to just give you that unconditional love and support when things aren't necessarily sunshine and rainbows all the time. And I think that really builds your relationship in a different way, that's different from just hanging out with them at home, or taking them to the park, or even going for a regular daily run. Having them there to kind of just be there when things are not going your way, or it's really challenging. Just, yeah, it develops, it just strengthens that bond.
It does. I remember 2 years ago when my dog and I backpacked together. I felt like we had a connection. And I know that sounds crazy, but I didn't expect it, I guess. I was like, oh, yeah, this is going to be fun. But I feel like for the next few weeks, we both could just kind of looked at each other like, yeah, we did that. And that was really cool. And we had this amazing experience together. And I tell you what, I get a little, you get a little nervous when you're laying in the woods at night by yourself, and just knowing that there's a dog with you. Maybe it's just, a psychological thing, but I definitely feel a little more at peace, sleep a little easier knowing I have a buddy, at least.
Yeah, I get more like spooked out if, like, they hear a sound, like, what is that?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it might
And
just be
of
like
course
the
they hear
leaf
everything.
ruffling.
So it keeps you, it might, and I'll say here at the house too, I feel so much more peace at night, just knowing, I've got dogs outside the door, just hanging out in the living room, kind of a buffer between me and the kids. And well, I'd love to find out if people want to find out more about you. We're obviously going to point them to longhaultrekkers.com, where they can learn about camping, cycling, flying, hiking, traveling with dogs, running with dogs. You also have an adventure dog camp. Are you doing that? Do you want to talk about that at all?
Sure. I hosted it with my friend Melissa, who's a dog trainer based out of Bend, Oregon. And we hosted our first one this year in September in Central Oregon. And it was a ton of fun. We had 10 people and 11 dogs, and we did hikes, and we had a vet come in to teach pet first aid. We had someone come in and set up barn hunt, which is where dogs search for, there's rats. The rats are trained. There's rats in tubes, and they hide them in hay bales, or there's a tracking portion. So the instructor will lay down a trail of rat pee, and then at the end there's a rat. So your dog has to follow the trail to find the rat. So we did that, which was super fun. We did some workshops on kind of leash handling and trail etiquette skills, how to manage your dog around other off-leash dogs when you don't want them to approach. So the point of camp was to just create an inclusive community and safe space where people can come with their dogs, and just build those skills and gain confidence to be outdoors with your dog, whether you're just wanting to get out more with your dog and don't kind of nervous about doing it by yourself, or you have a reactive dog and you don't really know, you're frustrated with other off-leash dogs that are constantly coming up to you. So we just really wanted to create a space where people can just build those skills and gain that confidence to feel more empowered to go outdoors with their dogs and have a good time while they're doing it, instead of being constantly stressed about all the things that could happen.
Absolutely. And sometimes it does take an expert coming in, showing you just 2 or 3 little things, 10 minutes of work with you, and you can be on a totally new trajectory to enjoying time instead of being stressed out the whole time you're out there. I am a huge advocate of leaning into folks that are much farther down the road than you are. They can show you a thing or two that saves you years of stress.
Yeah, and it's not always easy, having those difficult conversations with people in the trail or kind of standing up for your dog. It's really challenging, and it feels like you're being rude a lot of the time, and it just takes practice. And the more practice you do, the easier it gets.
That's awesome. Well, was there anything else you'd like to share or plug or share with folks wanting to take dogs on adventures before we go?
Let's see. We're planning the next adventure dog camp for May. That's also going to be in Central Oregon, likely, and we might be doing some clinics. So people can learn more about those on my blog. The best way is probably to sign up for my newsletter, which you'll see. There's several spaces you can do that on my blog. Instagram is also another good way to get up-to-date information on any events that we're having. That's at Long Haul Trekkers. And then, I think, just get outside with your dog. Just if you're just starting out, maybe just take your dog to the local park and start there. Just start with what you're comfortable with and find your people to kind of teach you those skills that you need or to help build that confidence, and just, start with where you feel comfortable and find your people, and you'll get there.
Awesome, Jen. This was great. Thank you for being on the show, and thanks for what you're doing with Long Haul Trekkers and just getting people the confidence to try something new. Try something new. I've never taken my dog on my paddleboard, but you know what? I might do that. Now. That would be fun for them, obviously, and would add a lot of a really cool aspect for me too. So I might try that this weekend.
It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. Sitka doesn't always love it because he would much rather prefer to be in the water. So it works out. I get a paddle and he just swims alongside.
There you go.
But yeah, we did that at Adventure Dog Camp. Actually, I did a paddleboarding clinic. So yeah, it's really fun. It's like a really, I don't know, it's a really like calm and peaceful thing to do with your dog.
Oh, I can imagine. Thank you so much for making this happen and jumping on.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, have a good day and have a good weekend.
Thank you, too.
Right, see ya.
Bye.
First of all, thank you so much for listening. It means the world to us that you choose to listen to the show. If you'd like to help us further, you can leave a review on iTunes, share us with your friends, your family. It goes a long way to growing the show. You can also support us financially through patreon.com/adventuresportspodcast. Link is in the show notes. And also, if you have an idea of who could be a good guest for the show, we're always looking for people to tell their story about the outdoors or adventure. So if you know someone, please reach out. Email us at info@adventuresportspodcast.com. And until then, get out there and have some fun.
Shop on eBay this holiday season to get more for your dough on stand mixers, or get more for your buck on this season's hottest tech and gaming gear. And on eBay, you can even get more bling for less cha-ching on jewelry. You can get more because you save more on premium brands with eBay's exclusive deals. Get more when you get it on eBay.
If you love hosting over the holidays, swap out your old HVAC filter with a Filtrete air filter. It can help clear away particles from all your holiday cooking. Look for Filtrete air filters at a retailer near you. Let's clear the air.